What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Regina Bradley, and this is Outkasted Conversations number 19. So it's Black Music Month, and we can't talk about Black music without talking to some of the heavy hitters in ethnomusicology and all that good stuff. So I had to call on some of my kinfolk. And today we have Mr. Langston Colin Wilkins, future Dr. Wilkins. What's going on with that, sir?
Chilling, working hard, staying busy.
Word. Okay, so I know you're busy. Getting things started, getting to the club. How did you become Outkasted?
Oh man. Well, 1998 is when I became Outkasted. That fall, Aquemini was released, I guess, in late September. I think I copped it in October, and I immediately fell in love with it. It was unlike any hip hop I had heard prior. I'd heard some Outkast songs, I never really had any albums or anything up until that point, but I was familiar with, Elevators and everything from AT Aliens. But yeah, October 1998, Aquemini came out. It was a sound that was radically different for me. At that point in time, I was, I guess, a freshman in high school, and I was listening to, nothing but, Rap-A-Lot and I guess No Limit, Wu-Tang, and probably Death Row. That was like, everything I was pretty much listening to. And then I copped Aquemini, in part because I liked the Rosa Parks single, but also because I saw that Raekwon was on there, and, Wu-Tang Clan, that was my dude. So I copped it, and, it's been on from there. My favorite song from the album is The Art of Storytelling, Part 1.
Yes.
It's also one of my favorite songs of all time. And I liked the album version a lot. I loved it. It was my favorite song from the album. But then I think that next summer they dropped a video version with Slick Rick. And I was, almost 15 at the time. And, I was immature and young. So I loved the video version because, on the album version, you have the two verses from Andre and Big Boy. Amazing displays of storytelling. Amazing cautionary tales. But in the video version, here comes Slick Rick, who out of nowhere drops one of the most ridiculous, misogynist, ignorant verses I have ever heard. I mean, it seems so out of place, but at the time, I was like, man, this is dope in my young, immature way, And then he dropped his solo album later on that year, which featured Outkast, and really, I mean, that's when I became Outkasted. That year, 98, 99, freshman in high school, that was the point for me.
Yeah, we're in the same boat because I was a freshman in high school when Aquemini came out too. But I didn't really first get hip to it until I heard one of my friends trying to transcribe it for the trumpet from Marching Band, Studio Dobalicious. And I was like, what is that? And he was like, you gotta listen to it. I thought it was hot shit because he was a senior and he was talking to me as a freshman, and I was like, oh, that's cool. But then I really was like, yeah. I really, I always tell folks when I talk to people, I'm like, you're my Southern hip hop guru. Like, I just love talking to you about. I mean, you are. You know what I'm saying? You give credit where credit is due. I got a question I asked Langston.
All right.
But you're doing some really dope work in terms of, thinking about hip hop in alternative directions, if you will. Can you tell us a little bit about your research with with the car culture and how that relates to hip hop?
Yeah, well, let's see, where to start. In the last couple of years or so, I've partook in research on Slab culture, which is an automotive culture, an automotive modification culture, unique to Houston's, Black working class community. Slab, I mean, it's similar to other, urban car cultures, the big-bodied luxury cars. But with Slab, they trick it out. They modify the body. There's particular wheels that are unique to it, and it grew first alongside the local hip hop culture. Then it became a core part of the local hip hop culture. It was sort of, I like to call it Houston's subway. Like in New York, the graffiti art written on the subway, that was the visual element of New York hip hop culture. Slab, in many ways, is the visual element of Houston's hip hop culture, and this is a new area of research for me, and now and in the future, I will be digging into other southern and urban car cultures because they seem to be a fundamental way hip hop is one disseminated. Southern hip hop especially. It bangs in the trunk. It's made to be played communally via these amazing booming sound systems and these big body cars. But also, and this is what I'm really interested in, these car cultures are a reflection of these place-bound hip-hop communities, and I think we also see cars being an inspiration lyrically and sonically in the music. So that's kind of the turn I've been taking.
It's one of those things where you don't really think about it until you put it in perspective with your research. Because big body culture is always, for me being from Georgia, big body has always been it. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't when you first started driving, it wasn't, oh, I want a Lexus or I want a Benz. They're like, no, I want a tricked out big body. You know what I'm saying? With the woofers and all of that. But I think that's a really interesting way to think about Outkast also, because if you look at even their logo, you know what I'm saying? They're paying homage to that whole car culture. What are some of the ways that we can use car culture to think about the uniqueness of Outkast?
Oh yeah, definitely. Now when I think of Outkast music and car culture, what sticks out to me is the Cadillac. Obvious. The first album was Southern playalistic Cadillac music, and I feel at least throughout those first two records, the Cadillac is maybe a motif that's used to represent what I feel is the, I guess, aspirational theme of those first two records. On Southern Playalistic and AT-Aliens, I think you have Big Boy and Dre speaking, or at least representing, this social world of inner city, young black men who are seeking to elevate themselves out of their particular social circumstance. They're looking for growth, and they're looking to get out and get something, as the single from Southern Playalistic says, and for a long time, since the 1930s and 40s, Cadillac has been a marker of upward mobility for black people. I think in the 1940s, Cadillac became the first, at least luxury car brand, to market directly to the black middle class. And since then, since the 40s, it's become a marker of success for not only the black middle class, but also the working class and even in the streets. So I think, Outkast on those two records, they use a Cadillac to show the ways in which they're aspiring, to grow, aspiring to develop. Look at Elevators, from AT-Aliens, rolling down the strip on Vogues, coming up, slamming Cadillac doors. They start the first verse of that record is Andre reminiscing on his struggle, his the way he got to where he is now, and then on the chorus, now that they've succeeded, they're slamming Cadillac doors. They've won, or they're winning, and they're seeking to continue to win. So the Cadillac is super important to my understanding of Outkast, and I think it offers us a look into this distinctly Southern, black male experience. Isolation, poverty, this creation of street life, But at the same time, you have, a lot of black men who aren't in the streets. They're hardworking, they're going to college to try and succeed, and I think, but in many ways, the Cadillac is still a marker of success for both those worlds, and I think Outkast do a great job of presenting both those worlds in a non-judgmental but critical way. So, Yeah, that's kind of how I see the automobility, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think about, the Outkast logo looks like the hood ornament of a Cadillac car. And
Right,
then you
right.
got, like you said, you have elevators and you got two dope boys in a Cadillac. Like,
Yeah, well, and another thing, I think the Cadillac, it's similar to P-Funk's Mothership, I would say. I mean, P-Funk in the 70s, they created this idea of the mothership as a symbolic way for black people to, I guess, reconsider or rethink their social history and experience in America. George Clinton and them were pushing black folks to celebrate themselves. They created a whole world that was grounded in celebration of blackness. So I think, and we also see the same thing with Dr. Dre and the lowrider culture in the West Coast. But I think Outkast was using the Cadillac to say, hey, young black men, women in Atlanta, in the South, be proud of who you are. Be proud of your southernness, your blackness, and your hoodness, and that's okay. Celebrate it. Shout it out to the world.
I mean, like, I know when you talk about, slab culture in Houston, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is there a particular, I mean, like, can you attach it to a particular type of car or model like Outkast does with the Cadillac, or is it kind of just a larger, is it the Oldsmobile, a couple of Buicks in there? Like, how do we, like, how does
Well,
that work?
yeah, yeah. Let me see. Slab culture. There is a diversity of makes in slab culture. You will see Oldsmobiles, Mercuries, Lincolns especially, but Cadillac is the most valued car. And also, I mean, actually, the slab aesthetics, from the fifth wheel to certain body modifications to the headlights and such, all of that is based on certain models of Cadillac cars.
Mm.
So while there is a diversity in type, you're the man or woman if you have a Cadillac, especially a drop-top convertible Cadillac. That is it. So Cadillac reigns supreme all over the place.
Mm. So I know another part of your research is you connect, as an ethnomusicologist, you connect place and space to the significance of music.
Yeah.
Earlier you were talking about how the actual consumption of music, particularly in the South, is connected to the car, right? Like, what is the significance of thinking about that aesthetic, to think through what it means to be, a consumer of Southern hip hop from the South after this kind of particular moment of history? Oftentimes when we think about Southern black music, we kind of try to stay in a certain time period, but with the cars, you have mobility and all that other good stuff. What are some of your thoughts on the connections between those two?
Ooh, yeah. Well, I think understanding automobility, especially in Southern rap, allows us to understand, in many ways, the varying, Southern and black experiences across the South, from, Houston to New Orleans to on over to Atlanta. And obviously those locales are very different, but I think in all of them, you get these segregated spaces, you get segregated spaces that are grounded in working class experiences, racism, poverty, all those things, So you have groups of people who, just desire to, in many ways, be free, and to become mobile, So the car, is symbolically, I guess, the chief way people, become mobile and rise out of their particular experiences, And I think Southern rap, has offered us a look into that particular experience, because I can't really think of this concept of mobility or automobility before Southern hip hop. I mean, it's core. Maybe not New Orleans necessarily, but Atlanta, Houston, Miami, Memphis, definitely, because you all have isolated, black working class spaces, who are attempting to become mobile, whether that's being heard within their mainstream, cities, or just, become mobile within their particular communities, able to leave the block and travel all over, the neighborhood. So I think this idea of mobility via cars is just central to black life, in the South, and hip-hop has offered us a look into that particular phenomenon.
Yeah, I mean, I think that idea of using cars kind of as a representation of the Southern Black folks' mobile community, if
Yeah.
you will, I mean, it's intriguing and it's really underutilized, but it's necessary if you're going to talk about Southern hip hop, especially, in these major city hubs, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But, in addition to, this idea of consumption within these mobile type of spaces, I talked to Fredera a couple days ago,
Okay.
and one of the questions that I asked her was, her thoughts on Outkast's, their travel, their reunion tour, if you will. How does that idea of mobility impact, previous ideas of what they were trying to do to be mobile in terms of their music?
Oh, man. Yeah, their reunion tour is interesting. The idea that they're doing nothing but, I think, big festivals. It's a festival tour. And I think that does speak to their particular place in hip-hop right now. And also, in many ways, to hip-hop's place within, or space within, popular music or popular culture. I mean, Outkast, they had Idlewild, but really, I think people's lasting, image of Outkast was The Love Below, Speaker Box, and those major singles. That's truly when they crossed over. Those were big records. So in many ways, Outkast, while we think of Outkast as these Southern, some ways folksy representations of Black Southern identity, they're pop stars, and I mean, you don't get any more pop in many ways than the big festival, circuit. So I think they chose to go that route, because they were trying to, I guess, reinforce their standing in place within, the pop culture landscape. And also, it shows me, that hip hop is firmly within, popular music. It is pop music. The fact that one of our most renowned hip hop acts would choose to have the reunion at big festivals, that means that audience is part of their core audience, so we have to respect that. And that shows that hip hop is very much mainstream music and it's here to stay.
Amen. Church. So in addition to your work on Slab culture, I know that you guys had the Slab Festival not too long ago. What are some of the other things that you're working on, and how can people get in touch with you to learn more about your work?
Yeah, let's see. Well, right now I'm finishing revising dissertation, so that's my main thing. Trying to work on a second Slab festival because that was immensely successful the first go around. We got like 4,000 people out, in the heart of inner city Houston to celebrate hip hop in many ways and this hood car culture. So I'm trying to work on that. I got some other writing projects, surrounding, about hip hop but also urban folk culture because that's, I think that's my new love is, celebrating, inner city art period, so I'm working on some of that. And look out for streetfolk.org coming soon. I got it up already, and that's my kind of site dedicated to urban folk culture. And to get in touch with me, let's see, hit me up on Facebook. Just, look up Langston Wilkins, add me. I'll accept. We can chat. Also on Twitter, streetfolklcw. And you can even email me at langstoncw1914@gmail.com. Hit me up. We can talk about hip-hop. Oh, forgot straightgangsterism.com. That's my music discussion site. So I talk about hip-hop and other forms of popular music that I'm into. Hit me up there. So I'm all over the place. But, yeah, if you want to hit me up, we can chat.
No doubt. Thank you. Appreciate you for chopping it up with us and everything. I'll make sure that I put the stuff in the About section, how they can reach out to you also.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. I'm Dr. Regina Bradley. This is Outkasted Conversations. We'll holler at y'all next week. Y'all be easy.
Peace.